tell me, we were downstairs and we were chatting. How did you fall into the space?
Yeah, well, funny enough, I got into the quantum world purely on just the drive to debunk it. And back in probably 10 plus years ago, my drive on social media was to find things and show people like what was the scam and what wasn't. And was always really open and willing to have like a foot in my mouth, which happened quite often. Like with the carnivore diet, I got into that to completely debunk it. And back then I was a competitive ultra runner doing the 100 to 200 mile ultra marathons. And it ended up being the best thing for me. So when I got into the quantum energy, it was, to me, initially really woo-woo pseudoscience scam. And that's directly because there's a lot of unethical marketing. And just if you scroll through Facebook or Instagram, you see a lot of quantum stickers and the terms they use. And I feel like, they really kind of prey on people that are unhealthy and desperate to feel better. And that kind of dilutes the rest of the world of quantum. And that's what I had fallen into, was just kind of like, well, the sticker can't work, it blocks, and which it can't, but so that's how I got into it. And I had started with this a quantum frequency necklace that had a bunch of all the micronutrients in it. So I'm a monotonous eater, ate the same thing for about 40 days to get a baseline. And I went and did like a SpectraCell micronutrient test and basically had suboptimal nutrients. And I started wearing the necklace, and I got another test 40 days later, and everything was optimal. So things weren't over or under. And I went another 40 days, and I got tested again, and my numbers again were all optimal.
From wearing this necklace.
Just from wearing the necklace. And then, so after 2 tests, I took the necklace off and I went 40 days without it. And I got the test again, and the same numbers or the same nutrients that were
optimal,
that were suboptimal, were no longer. Well, yeah. So sorry, the ones from the get-go, it went back to like baseline. So I was suboptimal in the same nutrients. And now that isn't hardcore science, but it was enough for me to go, there's something to this, because I had spent almost like, 9 months doing these tests. And
that's insane. And that's how you met the Leela team. That's how you got introduced.
Yeah, a few years later when Leela came around, which was like 2019, that's when I jumped into that one, because they do so much. There's the pure quantum energy, but the other parts of it is the imprinted frequencies. Every product is charged with pure quantum energy, and that's kind of where we'll talk about the benefits, but each different product also provides very specified individual frequencies for you.
And then what, during this testing, I'm just curious, what other kind of things did you go after that actually ended up being a complete lie that was being sold as marketing?
Yeah, it's there's a lot of those things.
Top 3?
Well, it's kind of hard to say off the top of my head, I guess. The companies I don't want to throw under the bus now. But gosh, mainly the stickers were a big thing. That was the first thing that really got me into doing it. But just other supplements that were around back then that were like the NAD enhancers that didn't really do what they said, or gut health things, parasite cleanses that weren't really as effective.
The market's just full of that stuff.
Yeah. And there's other technologies that I think are,
scams.
There's scams, and there's overpriced. And again, it's a very sensitive, I guess, community in the health and wellness, because I want to kind of be on the front end of it, of helping people, because people will go take loans out and put themselves into debt, financial stress
to get these products,
to feel better on something that doesn't. Kangen machines, we can talk about that all day. I can, and the fact of what it costs, and I see people again that
using them.
Yeah. And there are some benefits, but there's much cheaper routes, significantly cheaper routes. So that was some of the things. I'm not huge, don't love it anymore, go into the big details of it, but I feel
those were all scams.
Yeah.
When it comes to quantum energy, can we break down to people what is quantum energy and how does it work?
Yeah, I know we talked about quantum a lot here without going on the description.
Let's explain it.
So like you said, quantum energy is all around us. It's not something that we created. It's just something that we have learned how to utilize and harness. But actual quantum energy is the energy at a subatomic level. So it's not a positive energy and it's not a negative energy, but it's a very neutral energy. And that's where the benefits come in, because it kind of will resonate out and it neutralizes anything that's in that field. So which is kind of it's not the main thing that our products do, but one of the most impactful things is that it's neutralizing the harmful effects that EMFs have on our body, which we can show by testing over and over again with biomarkers.
And individually, if somebody is listening to this and they're like, how do I check if my quantum energy is good, not good, suboptimal? Like, what are the things that would come up for them in their body, in their sleep, in their habits?
That's a great question too. So the one way to really check is it's more so like accessing the quantum energy and having it around us. So the way that we can actually measure and quantify it, the best way I'd say, because some people are very sensitive and they can just sit down and be present with it, but that's maybe a smaller portion of the population. And of course, with this stuff, and of course, it coming across initially as magic or woo-woo, the ball is always in our court to prove it, which we love doing because we have over 60, almost 65 double-blind placebo-controlled studies now. And what that will show is, for example, if you're, with the quantum energy, is if we had a Wi-Fi router next to you and I, we could test our biomarkers. We can check our brain wavelengths. We can check our HRV, our heart rate variability. You can check calcium channels. There's quite a few other things that we can check in terms of for stressors because, even though a Wi-Fi router is next to us, you may not feel it. Some people do if they're very sensitive. But again, your body doesn't lie. Your HRV doesn't lie. It just tells you this is the facts. It's very linear. So there's no way to really manipulate that in a placebo way anyways. But then what we can do is put one of our products around here with us, and then we can retest all of those, and we'll see that all of our biomarkers are all back at the same pre-EMF exposure or even better. So we're seeing things like we just did like a 256 channel EEG brain scan with having cell phones next to people, and then putting the products on, like having the products in an area. And we're seeing that, for example, when you're stressed or anything, your gamma and your beta alpha brain wavelengths, they're increasing, and that creates the anxiety. And what we can see is when you are in an area where you have this quantum energy, is it's neutralizing all those. So the beta decreases, the gamma decreases, and then you find an increase in alpha and theta. So we see like a 7% increase in HRV and a lot of increase in REM sleep, because basically, in a way to really explain what this is doing to our bodies, is it puts our body back at its natural state. So similar to if we're in the middle of a national park or somewhere where there is nothing and our body is able to just be stress-free, then our mitochondria can do what it's supposed to do. But when we're sitting here and
the lights, all this, EMFs
just being in the town of anywhere where there is 5G stressors, all of that, like our mitochondria basically has a budget and it says, okay, I got to put 30% towards the EMFs, 10% towards this and that. And when you kind of expose yourself to the quantum energy, it's almost like you're bubble wrapping yourself in this protective material in a way from any type of just external environmental stressors. So it allows your body to do what it needs to without the stress. And that goes with, we see basically a 29% increase in ATP production, 100% increase in wound healing. And again, it's not even so much the things that we're creating, it's allowing your body to do what it's capable of, because it can't heal fast because if it's doing other things at the same time. Our bodies are very resilient. Right. But if it's having to protect you from the effects of the EMFs, then it can't devote everything to healing.
Tell me a little bit something, because normally I wear the necklace and I don't know, I've lost it in my car today, but the necklace itself, right? How much of a field does it create around you? Because there are normally 4 to 5 balls in the different necklace, right? So how many balls does it need to create that frequency around you?
Well, just having one ball is okay. That kind of is the intensity for people, but the protection bubble is about 3 feet. Yeah,
3 feet. And the big charger that I have at the house, how much of a radius does that create?
Yeah, the blocks or the pure quantum. Depending on which one you have, it can be anywhere from about a half a mile to like about 2 kilometers.
What?
So
that's
they're very
really
large.
Big.
Yes, and that is where you're getting the harmonization of the EMF. So like, for example, if you have one in here, you're actually, everyone in the building is pretty much benefiting from
that's amazing.
The neutralization of everything. Yeah.
Well, I definitely need to get one in the studio then. And it also is really great for changing the structures of food, right? So talk to me a little bit about food molecules, food structuring, and why is it important to have quantum energy harmonized food and nutrients?
That's a really cool question. So it also will structure water. And I'll preface that we worked with the Emoto Institute, Dr. Emoto, which most people know for his research and studies with water and the effects of words and energy, of course, with it. And he could freeze the water and see it under a microscope, that if you had negative words, then that basically looked like shattered glass. And if you had love and peace, then it looked like a beautiful snowflake. And that's, revitalized structured water. And so we have water bottles that actually do this, and it'll charge them and it'll imprint frequencies into it. And we took it to the Emoto Institute in Japan, and afterwards, they were so impressed that we're actually the only company that they've reached out to and said, can we sell and supply your products here at our institute? So
it's incredible.
And I only mention that because water, we are at a molecular level, we are 99% water. When you're talking about food, think about all the fruits, everything like that has water, and what we're doing that. So when we're putting the water or when we put like fruit and stuff under there, it's actually structuring and energizing the water as well.
Yeah.
So that's always an important thing to mention before that. But then with the food, what we see is I actually have a very cool story where I am severely allergic to crab, honey, and avocado.
Okay.
And
you would have like a complete.
Yeah, I won't. It's about 8 hours of just hives, and it's horrible down my nasal cavity. It's like I snorted a pepper. And it looks really rough. In fact, at the biohacking conference in Orlando, we did this on stage in front of a massive crowd.
You did it on purpose?
Yeah, for the name of science, right? But because when I was listening to the research from the head scientist of Ian Mitchell, he's like, well, yeah, basically it will neutralize any disruptive waveform patterns.
So if somebody is gluten intolerant and they put, like, let's say they want to have a pizza or a bowl of pasta under it, then they will be actually able to tolerate it?
Yeah, so we show with the studies, which is kind of where we got into this, it's a 92% reduction in the stress that food has. So for me, I was like, let's see what this does for food I'm really allergic to. And that's what I did. I'd put some crab under there and I was able to eat it. And again, this isn't hardcore science, but initially, I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's placebo. I'm also a fan. I understand the power of placebo. So then I'd have my wife choose what time, if she put it under the block or not. So I wouldn't know, and I'd eat it and either have a reaction or not. And it was always relative to the scenario that occurred. So if she did it, then I didn't have an issue. If she didn't, I'd have an issue instantly. It's within seconds. So what we found is that at the time you could put like my crab for like 6 minutes under the block, and it was neutralizing all the frequencies. And so we did this on stage in front of a bunch of people. We took a derma roller and put it on my arm. Instantly a horrible reaction. It blew up like bee stings. And then we put it under the block for like 6 minutes, and we talked to the crowd about what was happening, and we did my other side, and there was no issue whatsoever.
People must have been blown away.
Yeah. And we have a Telegram group where people, it's not even it's a bunch of users, and they're talking about it. And then we started getting more people that are like, hey, I'm allergic to lemon juice, and now I put it under here, and I'm seeing not much of an issue. I had someone who had a fatal allergy to bee stings, like wasp, and they got stung, and they were driving to the ER, and they actually had a block and put their hand under the block where the sting was. And by the time they got there, everything had been reversed. So at some point, Philip was like, okay, let's legitimize this with a study. And that's what we did in the UK. And they were able to show it. And the way they're measuring this is, I don't want to misspeak too much, but it's basically there's a protein that's in your urine that excretes out if you have a histamine or an allergy response. Right. And they were able to test for that and show people with this. And again, all these studies are double-blind, placebo-controlled, which is important.
Yeah, of course.
And we saw a 92%, like I said, reduction in the stress that like sugar, gluten, any of that stuff has on the body.
If you know me, you know I avoid seed oils like the plague. They're everywhere, even in snacks labeled as clean, organic, or healthy. But the truth is, they wreak havoc on your metabolism, your hormones, and make you super inflamed. That's why I'm obsessed with Prima, one of the few products I completely trust. Prima was created to push back against processed artificial foods and bring us back to real, nutritional, ancestral ingredients that actually nourish your body. It's packed with 100% grass-fed beef tallow, grass-fed collagen, and grass-fed whey protein, delivering bioavailable nutrients for muscle recovery, joint health, and overall vitality without any of the junk. No seed oils, no refined sugars, no artificial additives, and the best part, it's one of the few products that is certified seed oil safe. I always keep Prima stocked in my bag. It's my go-to post-workout, between meetings, or anytime I need an easy, high-quality protein boost. Getting in at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight can be really tough, but it's essential for building and maintaining muscle as you age or going through a fertility journey in your 40s and 30s like I am. And the flavor is delicious. Cacao, mocha, and salted caramel. You really can't go wrong. My favorite flavor is the salted caramel, plus the Prima bars are sweetened with organic raw honey and only contain organic whole food ingredients. So you're fueling your body with real clean nutrition. Because you're part of the Biohack-it community, you get 20% off. Just use code IMAN20 at eatprima.com. Ditch the seed oils, fuel your body right, you will feel the difference, I promise.
And then when it comes to why can't you guys manufacture like a human sized block that we can just sit under, put our dogs under or cats under?
I would love that.
Wouldn't it be amazing?
Yeah, hopefully Philip
like somebody who's
listens.
suffering from like chronic disease or something like that, and it's all down to
med
frequency.
beds. Yeah, was what my wife and I was like, we need to make some med beds. So we do have a larger version that's pretty much the size of this, the gram block, and it's enough that like
this big.
Yeah. So you can almost lay yourself in it. You can't have your whole body, but you could put your like whole chest and legs and stuff under there. We do I utilize at my house for like a whole bag of like Whole Foods groceries. Like I can just put it under there and have everything charged at once. It's much more effective.
I need to get this.
But I would love to have. We have. There's like Sun Life Organics, which there's they have one in every one of their stores, and that has to do with enhancing. Yeah, it enhances the taste because you're structuring all the fruit, with the water that's in it. It goes pretty deep, but it also brings it back to its organic state, which is really cool.
Right. And that's what we really want, because so much of our food has been tampered with at some place. Like, unless you're really buying from a specific farm and you know the farmer and the farming practices, organic alone is just not cutting it anymore, right?
No, it doesn't.
And because regenerative practices have kind of gone out the window, regenerative farming is actually where the minerals and the nutrients in our food come from. But those have been eroded because of commercial farming practices and how we're not giving the soil time to recover, and we're not farming seasonally anymore. We're just kind of churning stuff out. The quality of our food that's going into our body is not nourishing us the same way. So this stuff is really cool to me because you're able to kind of reverse. You're like, okay, I'm buying organic, but if it's still not nutrient dense, what I'm doing is I'm structuring your food in this block and it's giving me the nutrients that I need.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it makes it more bioavailable, which is really cool.
And able to digest and process. Yeah, that's incredible. What are some of the other things that you have personally noticed in your life that have improved since you started actually working with quantum energy, from the time that you started to wanting to debunk it to this?
Definitely just having a more peaceful environment. Again, for me, the huge thing was the food. Like I said, like that's a huge thing for me because it wasn't something I was allergic to my whole life. It happened when I was about 30 years old. It just came in. So I'd enjoyed crab and avocado and honey prior to that. And something just changed in my gut biome, but I can still now enjoy it. Going out to restaurants, we have a small travel block, and I'll take that, and it just kind of harmonizes any of the bread that we're eating and be able to enjoy things. We travel quite often, so we have the travel block too to put in our hotels. And anyone who comes to our house or when we have those, it's really common for just to it's so peaceful here, and I will instantly, because it could be a lot of things, but I know it's the block because it's harmonizing and it's a consistent response of just like, wow, it feels so calm and
nurturing,
peaceful here.
To be in that environment. That's amazing. Yeah. I saw somewhere that the Environmental Working Group, I basically read this, found that U.S. cell phone radiation standards have not been updated since 1996.
They're not allowed to be.
And so in my head, I'm like, are we basically guinea pigs for everything that's going on? And they keep on propping up these 5G towers, because if this is true, and people can look this up themselves, but if it hasn't been updated since 1996.
It's not allowed to be. They're not, if you read the FTC trade agreement with that, says also that you cannot limit EMFs or any kind of form of communication due to health concerns. So,
what do you mean?
That's why, so it hasn't been changed and it's not allowed to be touched. And so the only reason I kind of know about this more in depth is, in Marin County, I lived for many years in a town called Fairfax. And we, as of a few years ago, last time I checked, we are the only town in the world that successfully banned smart meters from PG&E. And because everyone had tried to go around the routes of health, because they were able to acknowledge this, but we were able to do it off of property taxes and all this stuff. And also was one of the first towns in Marin County. Most of the towns were the first to ban 5G. Which isn't a thing. You can't, you can't do it on a health scenario. And I learned all that with the lawyers because what they were doing with it. So it's very cool to see that people acknowledge it and that there are ways around it. You just really have to be resourceful. But Fairfax, California, and then Marin County, of course, is well known. But a lot of the cities there ban it due to aesthetics, and that's how they get around it. But it's a tight, locked, knit place that you can't mess with.
Even though it's such a big health issue for a lot of the functional community and stuff, talk about how EMFs are completely wrecking people's health, our cells, our sleep in such a deep level, and not enough people are talking about it. But the functional community is, but that's a small population
because it's
size.
invisible. And the only best way you can talk about in a way of that is like, well, listen, we have cell phones, and we couldn't talk without the EMFs that are going. And even though you can't see it, you clearly know that the cell phones are working. And one thing I really appreciate about is Philip, the founder. Not a lot of people really know this about him, but he was a global vice president of T-Mobile for quite some time.
Wow.
So he has the understanding of both sides of the pendulum, which is also another thing about Leela is more about working synergistically and harmonizing with the luxuries of these technologies. Because you and I really wouldn't be able to sit here.
Right.
We wouldn't be able to do these cool
part of our
things.
life. Yeah.
And part of that. So there's the difference between, living in a fear and Faraday cage and all of that, which is that is an option.
Yeah.
Or you can kind of work synergistically, and I can wear my Apple Watch and I could have AirPods on and stuff. And again, at the same time, while doing this, we could be checking my biomarkers and showing that the
What's really going on,
EMFs are not affecting my body.
What are some of the most common signs that somebody is silently being wrecked, like their health is being wrecked through EMFs?
That's a great question too. And, again, our bodies are really resilient. And sometimes I think most people don't feel it because if you're a very healthy individual, like your body is, you may have less energy, but your body is able to create this basically its own bubble wrap or shin guards around protecting you. But then now you can't digest food, you can't focus, you can't think because your body is exerting all of its energy towards that. So what you see when you have EMS, one thing that we can see, I've mentioned before, the biomarkers, of course, was like the calcium channels, the increase in beta and gamma wave, but most people don't have access to seeing that stuff, of course. You have the live blood analysis, which gets really sticky. You can see real time your blood gets sticky, which also we can see like cortisol levels. So stress, all this stuff goes up. And then, with different people, you get, it's mainly the cortisol. So people can get like random anxiety. Your throat kind of closes up. You can get dizzy. You can really feel inflammation in your, especially if you're holding your phone all day. And you wonder like, oh my gosh, my wrist and fingers.
My thumb bothers me at times. Like it's like a little lock.
It's an inflammation that creates. And again, you can say that, but you can also show it. Right. So that's what's really cool because we can talk about this and it's not theoretical. It's not possible or probability. It's like, this is what we see.
You can track and measure
it's consistent. Yeah. So that's the best way to look at it. But it's like, if you also have ADHD symptoms, and I'm not saying EMFs create ADHD, but it's like, if you're like, well, I shouldn't really have these issues, but why is it when I go to certain areas, it's really hard to think? Same thing with lighting and stuff. It's like, we still have to appreciate it because it brings a lot things available to us in this modern world. But if you're affected by it, sleep, of course, like your deep sleep won't be there because while you're trying to sleep, your body is constantly, again, trying to create that bubble wrap of protection and you're not getting a good sleep.
What's your take on electric cars like Tesla?
Gosh, EMF soups, same thing as an airplane. So,
and how does somebody measure the charge of a Tesla? Because I have friends that have Teslas and I've argued with them. I'm like, guys, electric cars are like, no bueno.
They're not. And first off, I'm not a fear monger. Like I'm always about the solution. I think fear tends to be a little more unhealthy sometimes than actually just dealing with it. And that's something I've definitely spent time. I can't really spend time in a Tesla. I was one of the first people in line for the 8 hours of the Model 3 when it came out. And once I sat in it, it couldn't handle it. It's so much because it's also right underneath you. So the other thing is though, because the Teslas, and there's a few other cars there's actually another car that's even worse than a Tesla.
Which one?
We can't really say, but it's a car that's in Europe and we tested it. So we just legally can't say the car, but there's one car that is worse than.
Is it a big brand?
Yeah, it's definitely a very big brand, but it's.
Can I say it and you can say yay, nay?
I don't know. So we tested them in Europe and they have higher numbers, but that's how we could show that our product worked because we would test your biomarkers, put you in the car, test the biomarkers, and then implement the technology and show that your biomarkers are, while sitting in the car, were pre-EMF exposure or better. And one thing I want to mention, I think it's really important because even when we're talking about electrical cars, the other end of this is most new cars have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi.
Yes.
The majority of people that I speak to think that, well, if I'm not connected to the Bluetooth or the Wi-Fi, it doesn't matter.
No, it does because the car is still connected to it.
It's still connected. And the other end of it is like, I know it's a weird analogy, but like that type of technology, the way it's literally created is a social creature. And if it's not connected, it's working harder and looking harder to connect. So now it's actually putting out more EMFs.
Right.
So if you're not utilizing your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, it's not that it's done, it's working harder. Same thing with your cell phone. If you're in an area where you don't have cell service, you should put your phone on airplane mode because otherwise it's emitting more EMFs, looking harder to find something. So
But how does, if somebody's listening to this and they say, okay, I have friends who might listen to this and they have electric cars. How do they measure the EMFs in their car?
Well, it's really simple. It's just, you can literally get like an EMF meter. Now the EMF meters will, depending on how much you want to invest, they literally can go up to $60,000 for a machine.
What's a good one that's
an
not
Amazon
crazy
one for like
expensive?
$300? You can get like a trifield. Trifields are the most common ones. Now I wouldn't use them for everything, but if it's you want to get a shocking number, you'd use like a trifield, or there's a few other brands on Amazon from like $200 to $350. And again, those aren't something that I would check everywhere for my whole home, because there are some caveats to that, but it's enough to put it in a car and go, oh my gosh, it's a microwave, because it's going to go beyond, just like if you set off a microwave and you put an EMF meter next to it, it's going to go beyond what it can read. And the same thing is going to happen in an electric car.
And so if anybody's listening to this and they do this and they have like a Tesla or another electric car and they read, that means it's off. But what if somebody does this? I had a friend who said she did try testing for EMFs, but I don't know what device she actually used. So what if it doesn't go off? Then does that mean it's just a one-time glitch and they should buy a different device and try it?
Yeah, because it would. It just means the machine didn't work. Because it's a clear. It's not, again, it's not a theoretical thing. It's just science. Like, it's putting off so much EMFs that, I mean, it's an entire technology. You're in a cage that's all technology.
How much EMF exposure is sustainable for the body, right? Because we do live in really connected times.
Yeah.
And how much of it, what threshold does it cross that it becomes toxic?
So that we should step back and also acknowledge that there are kind of like two different types of EMFs in a way. There are non-native EMFs, which are kind of what we're more concerned about. That's our cell phones. That's everything that we've kind of created as humans for technology. And then you have EMFs, the earth puts off its own natural amount of EMFs, but we're also usually grounded, and the stuff that, occur, like we separate ourselves from so much. Like, we're walking around with shoes that have rubber, so we're no longer connected to the earth and everything around it. Now, in terms of the amount that is safe, that's such a wide spectrum, because there's many people who are like, no EMFs are safe. But I live in a world of like, is the juice worth the squeeze for everything? And time of kind of like, but you can't just be in fear of everything. And as long as
you have to live your life, you have to live in this world.
Yeah, and knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And then when you know and you can own that, like, hey, I'm going to go, for me, I'm going to go to Austin, where I know there's a bunch of 5G, but at least I know it and I own it, as opposed to getting there and just punched in the nose and not sure what's going on. Like, I appreciate that more. But I really would say, like, the amount of EMFs, none is really good, because it's a stress. It's the same thing as like, the worst part of aging is the cortisol, right? So if you want to slow down aging, lower your cortisol. Because there's really you have a balance when you eat something and it goes up. It's all a biological response. But it's like, when you have EMFs, we see your cortisol is always high. So that's not good, even a little bit. But your body, again, is very resilient. And the more healthier you are, at least it can keep that numbers down, but it's also keeping you away from what you're naturally capable of. It's the same thing when you digest food, right? When you eat, like, your body has to take a lot of its energy and put it into digestion.
Right.
So if you eat right before bed, you might sleep, but your body is not resting, because now it's exerting all of its energy into digestion. So it's very similar. So it's exerting its energy to protecting you from the EMFs, instead of just letting you be and have good energy and be able to focus.
What are some of your favorite personal grounding practices that you do for yourself or your family?
Actual grounding?
Yeah, and like to get centered. Kind of, I know you're lucky enough to live in nature, so that's...
Yeah, I'm really, the best part for me is either, of course, actually grounding is clearly barefoot or wearing barefoot shoes, and there's plenty of options. But like, for me, breath work is the most important. It is pretty much the root of everything for us. The breath is the remote to the brain. So exactly how we breathe tells the rest of our body exactly how to respond. It's another way you can see, if you're around EMFs, you might start doing more shallow breathing, and it's kind of showing a panic. When you start breathing,
fight or flight,
if you inhale more than you exhale, like you're telling your body, it's very primal, it's blind, it doesn't really see what's going on, but it's like, oh, panic, raise cortisol, get sugar up so we can run away from whatever. It's very primal. So grounding, that's really important to me.
And in terms of like, how has it been having access to all of this information and knowledge and just learning so much about this space? What other changes have you made to your life? Because you obviously set out to debunk the space, and then you learned so much about it. So what things have changed for you on a personal level?
There's some big things, definitely, is like light exposure.
Okay.
I think it's very important. I believe the 2016 or 2017 Nobel Prize was awarded in the in circadian biology, and it talks about like the most important things you can do. And again, having control of your light environment. And for me, I do pretty well. And I also, again, not everyone can do this, but like at sunset, have the entire no more blue light in the house.
And also, what is your house? What do you light your house with?
A lot of red light panels.
Really?
And on Amazon, you can get really cool like night lights that are triggered by the lack of light, and then they just are red, which is really cool to have in the hallway. And then we just have red light panels throughout the rest of the house. And again, that's not feasible for everyone. I understand that, especially like our kids. They're really kind of cool with it. They think it's fun. So like, but I also understand that most people, their kids are not going to deal with that. But and again, not eating 3 to 4 hours before bedtime, because that is a huge difference for your sleep quality. And circadian rhythm is so important for us in so many ways. If that's messed up, then your cortisol is again
through
high.
the roof.
Everything is pretty much at the baseline for me is circadian rhythm, breath, but controlling cortisol, because it keeps everything calm and smooth like that. But those are and I'm very mindful of what I eat, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to enjoy it. It's kind of what I was when in Rome. But again, like I said, is a juice worth a squeeze? I look at. So I'm in Miami, and if I find something that is great food, I'm not going to give it a second thought, because I'm going to own it and enjoy it while I'm having it, as opposed to saying, oh, I'm going to deal with this later. It's going to hurt, because same thing. Our mitochondria hears our conversation. So if I'm eating something and telling it that it's bad for me.
Yeah, shaming it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, that's another reason the Lila block is so good, because you can put things under there that might more likely give you inflammatory responses, and it won't.
Like
anymore.
A pizza on a Sunday night that you just want to have, and you're just like, I just want to order it. That's what I did last Sunday. I just got pizza because I was craving it so much, and my body didn't love it when I ate it. And I was like, now I know I should just put the pizza box under the block.
Absolutely. That's what we do all the time.
Restructure it, basically. What other little like light hacks are you personally working on? So you don't wear the glasses in the day and stuff, right?
Now I will wear the daylight ones when I'm in I have 5 computers that I work on my desk, and
all at the same time, like a full screen.
Yeah, 5. I have 3 laptops, 2 desktops, an iPad, and a phone that I do a lot of work on. So at that point, I've learned, because I didn't do it, but I could be like, during the day, I could start to feel a little nauseous and down more so than I should.
Energy,
and it was just the screen time. So I definitely made that shift over to wearing the daylight sunglass or daylight block, or more so daylight. So they're more clear. And yeah, that's more what I would do nowadays, at least.
I was going to ask you, how does a quantum like tech threaten like billion-dollar industries? And do you think that's why we don't see, we know how healing this technology can be now. There's research on it. You guys have done a great job. We don't see it at hospitals. So what do you think it is that certain industries I
think everything in this alternative health world threatens big pharma and everything else. And I've seen it before. I've worked with, hospitals that are even very mindful. In Marin County, Marin General, and they don't use Wi-Fi. They use Ethernet cable throughout the entire hospital. It's one of the first hospitals that did that. They actually use like lavender essential oils when you have an anxiety attack and all these cool things, but they have their limits on what they'll do, right? Like, we're not allowed to do this stuff, and you always have that. And really, it's with the Lila products, it's a disruptor in so many places. Like, we had Beverly Rubik's a doctor. She was also someone who asked to reach out to us to debunk our products, and she came back and saw that the blood, because one thing that Lila with quantum energy is, it makes your blood more visceral. There's in so many different levels we could talk about, like, where does it disrupt and who does it disrupt, but it disrupts everything, because it's allowing you to be back at your natural state, so you're not relying on these supplemental Band-Aids. I don't mean supplements like supplemental like supplements, but like supplemental Band-Aids, whatever it be, or pharmaceutical stuff, and it allows you to kind of more enjoy life and be able to be just synergistic with any of the negative stuff out there.
What do you think, like working with a company as long as you have and seeing things so closely and so, intimately, what is one success story that should have made like national headlines but didn't because of mainstream media?
Well, the funny thing is, I don't mean to be cliche, there's so many. So like in India, we work with a whole institute there of autism, and they reached out to us and asked us if we could, supply some blocks, and they do some studies, and we're actually doing studies with them now for autism. And I also get the autism spectrum is very wide. It's very, very wide.
And there's a school in India that deals with autistic kids. Basically, what are the ages of the kids?
I believe I think they're all the way up to adults, so 18. Okay. And the things that they were seeing was, if you work with people on the spectrum a lot, you like children, there's a few things that are just pretty consistent, even though the spectrum was so wide. So to say symptoms, it's kind of a, you know, but they had much lower aggression and consistent bowel movements. And again, if you work with people on the spectrum, you know that those are two pretty common things.
Right.
And it's like, well, what's next and what's available, which we're trying, you know, we're looking at stuff like that. We have, again, the food allergy stuff. We have people that just have severe like Lyme disease. And, you know, that was one of the original things with like Philip and his wife at the time, Crew. She was suffering from horrible symptoms of Lyme, and they utilized the technology when it was created to actually suppress all of that.
And is our Lyme gone in regression completely now? Or
I have, as long as I've known Crew, about 6 years, I don't know of any symptoms she's had.
And how severe was her Lyme prior?
Very bad. She couldn't, and it was almost one of those out of disparity. Like she was sick in bed the whole time.
And was this like, besides doing like the working with quantum energy, did she incorporate other things that they learned through the science?
Yeah, I believe that's kind of what got them into the quantum energy aspect, was they were working with other healers and other people that were resourceful into other options, you know, anything in alternative health. But this is where they found like the biggest thing, because it'll literally, like I said, it balances and neutralizes any disruptive waveform patterns that are attacking you.
So walk me through a little bit, because somebody once hearing this would be like, so how does a device, like what is it manufactured of? What is a product created from that's helping you generate this quantum energy?
So everything is some form of metal. So like the capsules are brass, and we chose brass really just because it's a nice weight for a necklace. That's the reason. But otherwise, everything is like aluminum and gold plated, and those are being like some of the most conductive metals. So that's what all the other products are going to be. And the only thing that is proprietary with Leela is the technology created to charge the products with and to actually harness the pure quantum energy.
And what is that? Like, walk me through a little bit of the technology. Like, how does the technology piece actually work?
That's the only proprietary part. So that's the only thing even I don't know.
Because that was the one thing for me was right? Because I wear my necklace. It definitely, I can see the days I wear it when I don't. We have one of the blocks in the house. Our house has beautiful energy since we put it in. We put it in about 2.5 months ago. And so I always was wondering, I was like, how do they conduct those charges? Like, how is the frequency actually coming in? And how did the founder discover this? Like, how did he himself figure out, like, you know, I know it's proprietary, but how did he get introduced to it?
Yeah, again, like that. That's in terms of the how is the only thing proprietary, and also want to preface. That's why we understand that the ball is in our court to prove everything.
Yes,
because otherwise it's not, hey, trust us. It's here is the results, and we show it. But it all came, I believe, with Philip was when his wife at the time got very sick, and they started looking at other alternative healers, people who were very powerful and can see frequencies, can see auras.
And this is when they were they're in Costa Rica, right? Or they were already there or not there yet?
Well, actually they were, I believe at that point they were in Tennessee. So when they moved from Germany, they were in Texas, then Tennessee for a bit. And they also just have a retreat center in Costa Rica.
Yeah. Because when I saw him right now at Health Optimization Summit, he was going back to Costa Rica after that. So I was wondering if he was already there, and that's how, you know, he discovered it.
No, they've had that place for just about 5 years though.
Wow,
so, that's a bit newer, but yeah.
And what does the healing center over there do? Like, it's a center anybody can go visit, or how does it work?
Well, it's a retreat center, kind of where they focus on like 5-MeO DMT in a therapeutic level. It's the most profound, beautiful thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Have you done multiple ceremonies or just?
I've done it twice with them, and it is the most, I can't say enough, the most profound, most beautiful experience of my life.
I have done 5-MeO. I've done it in the middle of ayahuasca ceremonies. So we normally sit for ayahuasca. We do 3 ceremonies and we have a break in the middle. So we sit Thursday, Friday. So Saturday is our off day. And then Sunday we sit again for ayahuasca. So I've done it in the middle on that Saturday. Yeah. And it's amazing. It's a very different frequency to any other plant medicine. It's very quick. It happens really rapidly. But I'm fascinated with the whole like plant medicine space and what you're able to achieve and accomplish as a person. For me, for my personal life, for my career, it's just being like catapulted me out like completely. Have you done any other plant medicines?
Yeah, same thing. Growing up, I always thought that stuff was recreational, so I never got into it. My wife actually was looking for an alternative for like NA and AA because she wasn't getting the clear separation. It was always, I'm powerless to this, and she thought felt there was more to that. So she got introduced into plant medicine, and that's where I learned more about it too. So, from San Pedro, which is very beautiful. Of course, ayahuasca, psilocybin, 5-MeO DMT, all that stuff it's on a therapeutic level. They're so powerful tools. They're such powerful tools, and when used right, I mean, they can just absolutely change your life.
I wonder if they're pairing these ceremonies also with incorporating the quantum energy into them.
Yeah. So funny enough, like when you're actually at their
Retreat
property
center,
that they have the blocks around, and they have blocks that, which is part of one of our quantum upgrade products that we have too, is we have its source. And it's the frequency that runs off of 5-MeO DMT. So like when you're there, you're even resonating with what they use the blocks there, but they also have them customized, like they imprinted in the frequencies of 5-MeO DMT that are there to support you while you're going through the experience.
And are they facilitating these ceremonies themselves, or they have someone being the facilitator?
They've been trained for quite some time, and they will do it themselves. But it's very
Incredible.
professional, very beautiful.
This is
setup.
amazing. And how long is it just a one-time ceremony, or do people like go and stay
So
for
they tend to have a
multiple days?
retreat that's about 5 days, maybe
And
a little
do you
longer.
do it 5 days every day?
No, you do 2 days though. So like, because especially with 5-MeO, it kind of, I say almost like it bends your concept of reality, but in a very positive way. So they do it right. I have a lot of experience with other 5-MeO practitioners, and when you do it there, you have basically pre-integration. And then you have 2 days of Bufo, and then you have a very, very, very important, I believe, it's probably the most important, is the post-integration with Bufo. It is
Why do you
so
think that's so
imperative.
important?
Because you're coming back to a life that you just experience things that, the totality of existence.
Yeah.
You get to feel what it's like to become everything at once in everything of existence. Not even you can't even say the planet, like the universe beyond everything, and to dissolve into that and to feel the love and what it's almost like to be like what it's like to be God, in a way of feeling everything simultaneously. You really can't come back to normal day-to-day life. People do, and it really shifts them, and I think it wrecks them. And I think you can't go do Bufo on a Friday and
then go back
Monday,
to work on it. Yeah.
Yeah, you just shouldn't. It's detrimental. So they have it really set up in a way that you go post to prepare properly, because you need to learn what to let go of. What are you doing? Why are you here? And then do it. And then the post is.
I'm really interested in going to actually visit myself, because I mean, I've done it in the middle of these other ceremonies, but we're doing ayahuasca, which is really intense to begin with.
Yeah.
Which gives you such big downloads, and the themes are completely different, right? Ayahuasca, you can observe, go through a process, go through a problem, come out the other side, make a conclusion. With Bufo, it's just so quick. It's like 15 minutes, you're in, you're out, and then you're kind of going through the motion and the process and integrating post-ceremony, right?
Well,
like
I say ayahuasca is it's like you're sitting down. It's very powerful, but it's like sitting down for a lecture.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're told these messages, it's beautiful, but you wrote it down, and now it's on you to utilize it, which you should. But if you go back to day-to-day life, your way of thinking shifts again, and you might fade away from that. And with Bufo, it is the most experiential thing. So I always say it's kind of like Neo says in the Matrix. It's like with Bufo, as you exhale, you dissolve into, like I said, the totality of existence.
Yeah.
And once you wake up, it's like you just downloaded a whole new software update. And it's kind of like where Neo is like, oh, I know Kung Fu now.
Yeah.
And like you experienced it. So it's not hey, someone told me, and this is what I'm going to regurgitate. You live it.
Yeah.
And so you really, I couldn't imagine. After like 4 days at the Costa Rica airport, I could just feel everything of everyone. And I was like, I couldn't imagine the next day going on a plane and getting there, because you're so open and you need to protect yourself. And so they do it right with the post-integration aspect of it.
What do you think for our listeners? Because it's been so fascinating for them to learn about quantum energy, how it works, how it can heal you, how it can really enhance your life, and living in these negative EMF times, but there's a solution now. What do you think you want to leave people with, which is one thing that they should learn or take away from the brand that you guys are building, that's really going to help them, besides everything that we've discussed?
Yeah, just the benefits of not having external stressors in your life and what it can do for you. I think really, again, we have so many things, even though they're silent, it's almost like someone behind us yelling in our ear, though we can't hear it, like your body responds. And And just being okay, like again, like the synergistic aspect, which is the goal, is to not be afraid, not put your phone in a Faraday cage or look at things as negative. It's like, how can we be in harmony with this? And again, just the fear can be way more unhealthy. And that's one thing I just absolutely appreciate about Philip and their technology they created was just live with it in harmony.
I really appreciate just, I have a fast-paced life. I run a marketing agency. I have this podcast. I'm on the go a lot. So anything for me that can help like slow me down and enhances my cortisol dropping and reducing inflammation in my body in a way that I have to work extra for. It's just something I keep on me and I wear and it just kind of does its job. It's been such a gift. I think that's so rewarding. And then having something in my house also that can just charge the energy of the home, energy for our food, and just not be another task that I have to take on, another thing that I have to do on my to-do list has just been really rewarding for me.
Yeah. And it takes care of plants.
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing, by the way, in your house.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, we have.
Oh yeah, of course.
You can see, we can see like what it does to vegetables and the growth of vegetables like in gardens and stuff. So in our house too, but we also have plenty of our, house plants. It makes them happy.
I need to get one of these bigger blocks now to the studio because I want to make sure that when we're in here, every guest who comes in here sits down is having a great experience.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming down and recording with me. I was so curious to learn more about quantum energy. I think you answered so many of my questions and so many, I think, of our guest questions that they're going to have. And if you're listening to this, guys, and you have an electric car, go out and test it and then put a little Leela gadget in your car to offset some of that energy. I'm not telling you to sell your car, but make sure.
Well, that's the thing. You can use a tool. We also have quantum upgrade.
Yes.
Which is it's quantum entanglement, which is for a whole nother story. But that alone will take care of it too. So look at our quantum upgrade and put it on your car.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Todd.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to Biohack-it. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a short review. It really helps us reach more listeners just like you. Follow us on Instagram at biohack-it for exclusive content and the latest updates. Remember, your health is in your hand and curiosity heals.